All right, I'm gonna try something that I've been wanting to do for a little while. There's a guy on YouTube called Peter. He has a YouTube channel called Peter Draws, and I like it. What he does is he draws, and then he does a voiceover, and he just talks about random things. Yeah, so I thought I'd give that a go. Now, I'm not drawing, as you can tell, but I am turning a pen here. Um, yeah, so this is about as close as I'm gonna get to making a video about drawing. He incidentally he reviews pens as well, and I think he just came out with his own line of pens, which is fascinating. He uses fountain pens. Um, I'd eventually like to get into making some fountain pens as well. What I'm working on here is a Slimline pen, which is basically a narrow pen. It's not anything too exciting about the pen I'm working on here. I think the wood is like Pau Amarello or something like that, or it's a sapel wood. I'm not sure. It wasn't marked, and I just don't know enough about wood to to know. Yeah, so what you're looking at is me just turning down the pen, making it round from a square, and then I'm gonna shape it in a bit here. Yeah. While we're waiting for that, though, I got into pen turning very recently. It was about a month ago, maybe. No, maybe a couple months ago now. I was talking to my dad on the phone, and he told me that there was a lathe on sale at Canadian Tire, and so I went and picked it up. It was very quick decision. I was hoping to wait till the summer to get this hobby or new hobby started, but sometimes in life you gotta take hold of opportunities that present themselves when they present themselves. Anyway, I'm really glad it's worked out the way it has because I'm absolutely loving it. I've been looking for something to do to keep me entertained and engrossed and give me something to feel a sense of accomplishment and value outside of work, sort of in a personal project. And this has worked out really well for me. It's actually turning into something a lot bigger than I had ever envisioned it to be, it's not very big at all. Um, but that's part of the joy of this. What you're gonna see here pretty quick is that I mess up and I split the wood. It chips off. You can kind of see it there. It's a little flash. Um, but I notice it soon, and yeah. What's happened there is that you have to drill a hole through square block. It's about a 3/4 inch square block, and then you drill a 7 millimeter hole to put a brass tube in the middle, which holds the pen transmission. That's the piece that you screw the refill into, and it also holds the nib and I think it's called a ferrule. That's the back piece, the clip in the. There it is. There it is. Can you see that? Oh, that hurts. Anyway, what's happened is I I can't drill a straight hole. Uh, that's really what's happened, and it's so the bit chatters while it's going through the wood, and when it chatters like that, it creates a hole that's larger than 7 millimeters, and then when I go to glue it in, the brass tube doesn't fit snugly, and so there's a gap between the brass tube and the wood, and then when you hit it with the chisel there, it breaks off. So what I've decided to do, because I've been frustrated with this, because I think this is the third or fourth time this has happened to me now, is I'm just gonna use this hacksaw here to cut it down. I'm just marking it so I know where to do it, and then I took it off and I finished cutting it, and then I was just showing you there that I had cut it, and yeah. So the pen is a little bit shorter than it would normally have been, maybe about, I don't know, 5 millimeters or something. So not a terrible loss, but a loss nonetheless. I was just trying to sand it down so it's a little bit more flush, the wood and the brass tube, and there's not any sort of splintering there. Yeah, this is at like 3 times speed, so I don't actually work this quickly, although sometimes in my head it feels like I'm moving pretty quick. Yeah, I don't move that fast. Yeah, so here I'm just trying to round it out, get it as close to that bearing as I can so that I get a nice little shape. What I was aiming for was just a little slight curvature, nothing too crazy. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I've been experimenting a little bit, and then yeah. But for this one, I with the wood looking the way it is, it's really nice color. It's a nice wood. It feels really nice in your hands. I didn't want to mess around too much with it. Yeah. And here what I'm doing is I'm sanding it down, trying to make everything sort of flush and even. I'm using I think it's 100 or 150 grit sandpaper. With the starter pen kit that I got some Abranet mesh sheets, and still learning how to use all of this stuff, the sandpaper and things like that. So I'm taking a bit of time checking it. I think right now what I'm doing is running out to go get a little bit of water. I'll show you. Is that what I'm doing? No, I went to go get paper towel. And in a minute here, I'll go get some water. What the water does is it helps highlight some of the scratch or the sanding marks. So one of the big things with sanding is as this pen blank, a piece of wood is called a pen blank. As it's turning, you're sanding against the grain, so perpendicular to the grain, which is not ideal because it shows scratch marks. So what you want to do is once you've sanded down to what you think is a nice finish, you go with the grain to remove some of those sort of circular sanding marks and make them parallel to the grain so that they're less visible. And then, yeah, I'm wiping off some of the sanding dust there so that when I get the next grit, it doesn't get in the way. There's the water. And yeah, am I going to? Yeah. So when you do this, it helps highlight some of the sanding marks. I have a headlamp on my head, and so that's where that spotlight is coming from. And it helps me just sort of see and focus. But the GoPro is in the way, so there's some dark spots in there that I have to navigate around, but that's fine because you get a video out of it, and I get to talk for 15 minutes. And yeah, because I don't get to do that all day in front of my students. Yeah, if you've ever been in my class, you know that 15 minutes isn't very long for me to be able to talk, but I'm finding it a little bit difficult now, probably because I'm just talking to a computer. And I'm self-conscious about the fact that people, waiting for the elevator can hear me just talking to my computer. And now they know what I'm doing. Yeah, so so you go up through the various grits. The Abranet sheets start at about 180, and they work their way up to 600. So I think it's 180, and then 220, 340, I think 400 and 600, something like that. Anyway, you go. By the time you get to 600, it's a pretty smooth finish. And it's quite nice actually to see the transformation in the wood from that rough finish, and you can kind of see as we move on. Not right now, but eventually you'll be able to see that the wood itself starts to actually look polished just from the sanding and the micro mesh sheets that I'll use after that. Yeah, so that's what's going on there, and then. You see I'm spinning it there? That's really ruined my fingers. It's just holding on to that little cast iron piece and trying to rotate it. My lathe doesn't have a hand wheel on the headstock, so the headstock is the spot where the motor is, and it's on the left of the screen there, and that's what turns the whole piece. And so I have to sort of finagle it that way, and my hands are a little bit cut up. And because I'm so soft, and I basically work. Yeah, I don't do much in the way of handiwork. I'm not a very rough guy, so my fingers getting cut up, and my fingerprint scanner on my computer doesn't work anymore for me because I don't know, cut up my fingers enough. Anyway, it's fine. It's worth it. You sacrifice for the things you love. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. What else? How did I get into pen turning? Well, I've been interested in pens for a long time. It started in high school, and it's sort of just grown through the years, and so I guess it's 25 years now that I've been interested in stationery and pens in particular. And yeah, I guess just watching YouTube and seeing things happen, and just with this pandemic, as I was searching, endlessly for something to do that I would love and enjoy, I finally stumbled upon this. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, it's become a pretty big investment, but that's okay, and because I'm enjoying it. Here's a micro mesh sheet. So this one is at 1500 grit, I think, and then there's nine different micro mesh sheets, and they work their way up to 12,000 grit, and you'll see the transformation in wood as I go through. So I got into it. I'm hoping to sell these pens to make them sell them and sort of keep that hobby alive, and maybe make a little extra cash, which would be nice. So I've opened up an Etsy shop, which is actually quite a big deal for me because I'm not much of an entrepreneur, and a guy at work saw one of my pens, and we started talking, and he's business minded, so he was throwing a whole bunch of ideas my way, and so I sort of banked them, and I'll see how far I go with them. But I do feel awkward about selling things to colleagues, because I know how much money we make. So this has really been a very rewarding journey so far, and there's just lots of aspects to it, and doing these videos and just talking to a computer. It's part of the fun. So you can kind of see how the wood itself is sort of polishing up there. As you get into the higher grits of this micro mesh, it's almost like is it a strop? That leather, I don't know, what do you call it? Leather belt almost that people use with their straight razors. It feels like the same sort of thing, where it's a really fine grit, and it feels like you're running leather across the wood, and it's just shining it right up. And so the finish itself, even before I put on the shallow wax, is really quite nice. But shallow wax just protects a little bit, so through use, the oils in your hand and stuff won't put a patina on the wood, which, to be fair, would be quite beautiful. I have a Faber-Castell pen that I absolutely love, and the more you use it, the more that patina, works itself into that wood, and it's just gorgeous. So eventually, hopefully, I can make a similar type of pen and then put that out, and you can enjoy that as well. So here we are. We're just kind of finishing it up. I like to take my time here. I have a weird thing about counting. There's certain things I do that I have to count while I'm doing it, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's an OCD thing, or if it's just but it's sort of become something. Like in the morning when I grind my coffee, I have to count how many spoons I put in, and it's never the same amount, but I count anyway. I don't know why, because I'm weighing it. So I'm aiming for 34 grams, but I still count how many spoonfuls I put in. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense. So here's what I'm putting on the shallow wax. This has actually been quite a challenge, figuring out how to do this properly. I've tried so many different materials to apply it with, and different techniques and things like that, but I think I've kind of settled on something. So I'm just using a piece of paper towel, and I'm slowly, just a small amount, maybe one or two little dabs or dots of the shallow wax on each blank there, and then just very slowly working it in until the paper towel feels dry, and then and then just turning up the speed so it gets up real good. So we're probably sitting around 2,500 RPM. At the end of it, it starts off at 500 RPM, and then here I'm just turning it up and applying some pressure to set that shallow wax, which is a friction finish, so it needs some heat and friction in order to set, and then it's good. So I applied 3 coats. I think three is a good number for this. It seems to work, and I like the finish that comes out of it. I'm just trying to pick up some of the little fibers of paper towel that are there, and they're all gone, and the wood looks great, and it's really quite nice. It's a fun process. When I start doing this, I lose track of time. I mean, I come home from work, and hours later, 3, 4 hours later, I'm still doing it, and I've forgotten to eat. I haven't checked my phone. Like the world is happening all around me, and I'm doing this, and I'm absolutely in love with it. So that's great. So I'm just trying to finish off the polish here, and then I'm going to take the pen off and go put it together. And I think pretty quickly you'll see the final product. Yeah, so there it is, and I think it looks pretty good. I don't know. It's one of the weird things about this sort of thing is I can see all the flaws in it, but when I take a step back and look at it, it's quite nice, and I'm quite happy with it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, folks. There's nothing on your screen right now, so you're just listening to me. If you like this video, or if you have anything to say about it, or you have any suggestions for improvements or anything, please do let me know. Thanks very much. Yeah, we'll see you in the next one.